Hey guys, Michael from Enhancify here. Today I want to bring to you something unique and different. In the last month, we spent a lot of time talking to our customers and collecting case studies, stories of success. And one of the things that just sort of hit us over the head was the range of different types of contractors that we work with. I'm not talking about roofers versus fencers. I'm talking about guys who just started literally yesterday. They went off on their own by themselves. They're launching their business. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have companies that are doing $150 million in sales. So we thought, hey, how can we collapse and close that gap? How can we help people who are maybe just starting out or struggling with something? How can we sort of get them up the mountain faster? And we thought, hey, what better way than to ask the folks who have gotten up the mountain or at least have made a lot of progress? So I'm excited to introduce Contractors Who Win, where we sit down with contractors who are either on top of the mountain or definitely getting there, and we ask them, listen, what can you teach the community? If you had to go back in time and replicate your results faster and tell yourself when you were just starting out what mistakes to avoid, what would you say? So the first person we're interviewing is Kimba Garcia from RKG Roofing. If you know Kimba or know of Kimba, you know she's an absolute rock star. What you might not know is, first of all, her very interesting past and where she's come from, but also the fact that RKG Roofing and Construction has gone from zero to being on track to do 8 figures this year in less than 4.5 years from nothing. So it's not only an interesting story, but Kimba drops a ton of useful information, things that are actionable, that I think any business owner can take advantage of today. So it's definitely worth a listen. And hey, if you guys find this useful, like it, share, tag a friend, let us know. We'll keep doing this as an experiment, and if there's anyone in particular you want on this series, you want to learn from, hear their story, ask them to teach you something, let us know. Thanks, enjoy.
Love to. And thank you for having me, Michael. I appreciate being your first guest. I think this is going to be awesome. I think people are going to get a lot from it because you can learn so much off of other people's experiences if you're the kind of person that will just open your mind and take in that information. So I'm excited to see you doing this.
Awesome. So to get started, why don't you introduce yourself and more specifically, maybe your story from a high level? I think it's a very, very interesting one, right? You didn't really start in roofing, did you?
No, no, not at all. In fact, I was a hairstylist for 10 years. So it's definitely a different one. So for anybody watching, I am Kimba Garcia. I am the CEO and co-founder of RKG Roofing and Construction located in Fort Worth, Texas, and now also located in Prosper, Texas. So we just opened up our second location. I'm super pumped about that. Like I just mentioned, I don't come from a construction background at all. So I guess we'll rewind. My company is actually only 4.5 years old. So RKG was founded 4.5 years ago, and like you just said, Michael, we're now on track. We likely will hit 8 figures this year, and so it's very exciting to be able to scale where we have. To some people that might be small, to some people that might be huge, but for me to come in and do it in the amount of time that I've been able to do it has been, everything that you can imagine, like a learning experience. It's been terrible. It's been awesome, right? And I'm so transparent about my story because I do think that there's like a lot to be said inside of it. So we started, my husband was actually doing billboard work at the time when I met him, and it was keeping him traveling across the country. Him and I were a blended family. So he had a daughter and I had 2 boys when we met, and our family just everybody just meshed really beautifully, and our kids didn't even know what the word step meant. And it was just a really harmonizing union, if you will. And what we felt in that moment was something that neither of us had ever really had. And it was that sense of family and that sense of togetherness. And his job was taking that from us. We had this beautiful experience as a family unit for the first time in our life. And his job kept requiring him to leave to maintain the lifestyle that we had and to take care of the kids and all those kinds of things. So his whole life, he actually grew up doing construction, and that's really what his passion was: remodeling, renovations, building, because Robbie grew up around uncles and his dad that did contracting work, and he really loved that space, but he wasn't in it when we got together. So we actually decided to just kind of lean back on that passion and talent of his and pull him off the road, because at the time I made about $75,000 a year doing hair. I was a successful hairstylist. I also grew, it is an important part of my story as well, because I grew my following for my hair business on Facebook. So I'd already kind of started building an audience on Facebook, and I was able to build out a little salon at my house, be a full-time mom, and still make $75,000 a year doing hair. So coming from where I came from, like, that was already impressive enough. You know, like, I got to be a mom, I made an okay living, and I could pay the bills where we were at that stage in our life on that income. So Robby and I made the decision to pull him off the road and bring him home full time. And that's how RKG started. So I remember thinking at that moment, man, if we can just book like 2 fences a week, or like maybe 2 roofs a month, you know, then that's enough to kind of fill in some gaps, and, you know, we can make it like that. So that's really where we started.
Gotcha. What was that first year like for you guys?
It was honestly awful, and I wasn't in it full time. So the first year was Robby did all the labor, and that's the crazy part, because so often you see construction companies, roofing companies specifically, that it's a sales guy gone viral. You know, he worked for somebody else, he was really successful, he branched out on his own. We actually started the other way around. You know, Robby was our only labor hand. So he was doing the labor. What we did, Michael, we went around. I remember we got our little RKG polos made, 2 of them, 2 polos made, and we went around to other companies that had a face and a brand like we have now. And we told them, you know, Robby does really great work, give him a chance, sub some of your work out to us. And that was what the first year of RKG looked like. Was Robby was doing these great projects. He was actually on the roofs installing the shingles. He was inside actually remodeling the kitchens. Like, I mean, at one point we brought on 1 helper to kind of help him out, but he was the one doing it all. Meanwhile, we were making no money, because anybody out there that works under a GC probably understands that what typically happens is the GC cuts off like at least 40% of the margins off the top, and then gives it to the turnkey subcontractor, if that's the kind of agreement that's in place, to do the project. And so basically with 60% of the budget, we had to do labor, materials, and all the things. And there was honestly no money left after that a lot of the times. I mean, if one thing went bad in that project, which it's construction, so it does, and when one small thing happened, it took all the profit out of the jobs. And so I remember multiple times Robby coming to me, asking me, because I'm over here doing hair, I'm getting cash. He's like, hey, you know, can you throw me $100? The $100 I just made doing a highlight, hey, can you throw it to me, because I have to pay the helper, and we literally have no money left in this job. So this is where the scariest moment of my life happened, because Robby, we couldn't afford to pay any other labor people. And so Robby was pulling like 19 to 22 hour days. You've never seen anybody do anything like this man can work, like drug free. I mean, he was just the required time it took to put in. He stayed and made sure that that job stayed on timeline, that we stayed on schedule, that the job got done. He was very big into upholding his commitments that he made. And so our motivation was to have everybody under the same roof, but then it was like he was gone more. He was never at home. He was always out in the field. And I was working, I mean, dang, like 11, 12-hour days myself behind the chair, just booking myself crazy, because I was really carrying the financial load of our now family of 5. And so at night, I couldn't sleep without him. So I just started hammering, Michael, just hammering into learning all of the things like business, marketing, like all of the things that require the level that we've now reached outside of production. Because Robby had production on lock, but everything else, branding, marketing, management, taxes, P&L, cash flow, like all these things, I just started grinding into, and he didn't really know that I had been studying so much, because he was gone. So he gets home one day, and I just look at him dead straight in the eyes, and I'm like, Robby, I'm quitting doing hair. Today was my last day behind the chair. I'm quitting. I am firing myself. The look on his face was like, I mean, we literally had no idea how we were even going to pay our rent the next month. I swear to God, we had nothing. We had nothing in the bank. In fact, the week before that, I had actually had to book a last minute hair color. Like I put on Facebook, you know, hey, I'm the special, I'm having an opening, whatever. And I booked another hair color because I literally needed $200 to go to the store and buy groceries for my children for the week. Like we were not in a good financial place, but that's why I made the decision that I made, because I knew what I had inside me. I knew the knowledge that I had learned. I knew the potential that laid on the other side of this thing. And I told him, I'm like, man, look, if all my energy does not go into RKG, it's not going to make it. Like we have to be a team. You are doing you are putting out all these beautiful results, but like somebody else gets the credit. Somebody else yard sign goes in the yard. Like somebody else gets the referrals. They may or may not ever use you again, man. Like we need to be able to take the credit for the beautiful work that you're doing. We need to be able to have 100% profit margin to work in, not a 60. Like we need a face and a name and a brand. And at that moment, I still didn't know what running an 8-figure company looked or felt like. I just barely do, really. I'm just on that horizon, but there's been like multiple levels of jumps that I've had to personally make within myself to be able to reach these targets. And that's for anybody watching this. Like if you get nothing else out of like nothing business-wise, nothing else out of my story, if you stop here, just know that every single thing that you want is on the other side of the knowledge that you can acquire. Like it's such a blessing to be in the time that we're in, because knowledge, look, you are doing this right now to provide knowledge and value for people for free. And all they have to do is give us a few minutes of their time, and they might learn something that will change their life. And I took advantage of that, and it did change my life. And so I do hope, and I'm proud and thankful anytime I have an opportunity to kind of get to be on the giving end of that. So, you know, I told him that I quit. We're gonna make a brand. We're gonna make a name. And I literally watched his soul die when I said that. We had no idea what we were going to do or how we were going to make it.
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. So a couple of things. Number one, I'm just imagining being in that situation, right? You've got kids to feed. You've got it all on the line. That's a huge decision. It's a lot of risk. Do you remember how you and Robbie made that decision? What was the framework in your mind for kind of weighing it all out?
He got no vote, Michael. He got no vote. We had talked about it multiple times, and he kept saying, we're not ready, we're not ready, we're not ready. Well, let me tell you something about life. If you wait till you're ready, you're never going to do anything. Straight up, you're never going to be ready. I mean, sorry about you. And so it was the feeling of me honestly just getting fed up. Like our wheels were spinning in the mud. We were getting nowhere. Yeah, we were broke, but if we continue doing what we were doing, we were going to stay broke. There was no out to this. And I've been a single mom since I was 18 years old. I've been broke. I'm not scared to be broke. But what I'm scared of is to have no solution on the other side of that. And so one day I knew I was ready. I knew we weren't financially ready. I knew we weren't maybe even mentally ready, but I knew that I had put in what I needed to know to be able to launch this thing. And I already had a following on Facebook that I could use some momentum to start getting some jobs, to start branding some. Like I could let people know, hey, RKG exists and we are here, and I could showcase his really beautiful work, and I could probably sign up a couple of jobs. And so that was my plan. I was just like, hey, look, I mean, I'm going to start putting the things on Facebook, and we're going to start booking our own jobs. And I had enough people. If I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. I can't say it too many times, but your network is literally your net worth. Relationships are your revenue. So I had already created all these really beautiful relationships within the community because I was a hairstylist. And I had a following of people that wanted to see me win, and they were willing to give Robbie a chance because of the relationship that they had built with me. And I just bet on red. I just threw it down and was like, you know what? I mean, at the end of this, we're either successful or we're broke, but we're already broke. So
sounds like, you know, you guys were looking at the situation. You're thinking there's no real downside here. There's only a lot of upside. We got to go for it.
It was really, because I'm that kind of person that I don't fear failure. I fear a lack of effort. Like it would eat me more alive if I didn't try than it would if I did it and didn't win. And so Robbie just knows that I'm a very, you know, like in my soul, a pretty powerful, stubborn creature. And when I looked at him dead straight in his face and just said, this is what I'm doing, I think that he just realized that there was no argument to be made there. And he just said, okay. And
Smart guy.
at that point, we were partners.
Nice. Let me ask you this. You mentioned your Facebook following that you had built up from your previous business. What did that look like, and how did you get that off the ground?
Well, I started my first hair salon when I was 21 years old. So it's been a decade ago, literally now, because now I'm 31 years old. So when I started that, Facebook was way different and way smaller and way less. It was just a completely different game. But I always laugh and say that I've been doing social media since the AOL chat days. And I laugh and say that because it's when you still had to pick a room and pick a topic. And I've always been big on relationships and in connection. And I grew up in a really small town where my friend pool was small, where my exposure to culture was small. And so I've always loved the internet since it was literally dial up, because it got me exposure to other people, other cultures, and other information that I didn't have in my hands any other way. So I actually had Facebook when Facebook was only for college students, for anybody that remembers that. And I networked in at my school using Facebook, and partnered up with people to have study groups and homework. And so I've used Facebook since that was Facebook's potential. And whenever I opened my salon, which was a jump I made also, but that's another story for another day, but I made a jump into that also. And I just started taking pictures and showcasing what I was doing on Facebook. And so when you do that I did that from the time that, I started doing hair when I was 18, and I did it until I was 26 or 27. So you just build up a following. I'm heavily tattooed. I always had crazy hair colors. At one point in time, I literally had a pink mohawk. Michael, I don't know if you can imagine me like that, but I was crazy. I was out there. I'm a loud person. I'm just loud. My personality's loud. My look's loud. I've always been loud. And so people didn't always love me, but they damn sure didn't forget me. And so that's what marketing is. At the end of the day, not everybody's your customer. Not everybody's your follower. Not everybody's your fan. But, they won't forget you. And so when somebody looks for a hairstylist, I was just the one to come to mind because I showed up consistently. I showcased my work. I was a little bit different. I was super loud. I was in their face. And so that's how I built up the clientele that I needed to be able to make $75,000 a year from my home studio. So I literally just flipped it. I just flipped the topic I was talking about. And, I shared Robbie and I's love story from the day we met. And so everybody, like when we very first met, I remember people called us Beauty and the Beast, and everybody had my Facebook followers just kind of jumped on board with, I'm just so transparent. So they kind of watched me go through this like really brutal divorce, this like really brutal custody battle. And then they watched me find like the person that everybody knew was my soulmate. And then they kind of watched that little love story. People love stories. That's what it boils down to. They love the story. And I've always kept them a part of my story, and they've always wanted to see me win. And I just cannot express again how much value there is in just being willing to share your story and building up a following of people that will want to see you win, because they turn into referral partners, they turn into customers, it turns into revenue. And it's just all about relationships.
Mm-hmm. So let's say, someone's listening to this, they're in their first year of business, they're in that zone where they're doing everything, trying to figure it out. And maybe they traded working for someone else and now basically working more in a job. They thought, they were going to have more freedom. They're still in that space. What would you tell them when they were to ask you, how do I tell my story? Is there like a framework for that? I don't have 3 hours extra in my day to, draft up narratives about my story. How can I do this sort of consistently and easily?
I think, I actually have a mastermind group that I run around this. And that's one of the things that I hear often from business owners in my mastermind group is that they don't have time for it because they're wearing 27 hats. The main thing that I try to do with them is just to try to reshape their framework into understanding the importance, because when it's like just a Facebook post, then you don't find a lot of time for it. But when I say that sometimes and this is crazy, dude, but like, thank God for iPhones 11 being semi-waterproof, because sometimes I'm literally posting in the shower. I swear, I'm like letting my conditioner sit. Like, there are times like in any down moment that I have, like if I am waiting on an interview to get there, I'm set up, I'm about to do an interview, I'm on Facebook. whether that's me creating content or whether that's me doing outbound engagement, which is everything, I'm communicating with other people. It's just about showing up consistently. So even the days that you don't really have time to sit down and write out a novel, just show up consistently, show people what you're doing. You know, especially if you're out in the field. So that's really the prime time to do it, because you just have content creation at your hands. You know, you can get on your story real quick and, hey, I'm out here building a fence today, or we're out here doing this really beautiful pergola, or look, there's Miss Jones, you know, and just keep it fun and upbeat. I think a lot of people, and I still struggle with this too. It's like you're scared to tell your story because people might not think that it's interesting. Also, it's like, oh, it's great for you, Kimba. You got this great story. Well, to me, my story is also not great. It's also not that impressive. And I would just say that, you know, everybody out there probably feels that way, but everybody does have a really cool story to tell. They just might not know how to tell it. But when you just tell the truth. Just get the time in wherever you can. You can literally create a piece of content a day in 10 minutes. And I am still one of the most busy people alive because I keep so much on my plate. And even I can find 10 to 15 minutes a day at least. The thing is, you've got to stop looking at it like, oh, it's Facebook and I don't have time for that. And you have to look at it as I have 5,000 plus people on my personal page alone that I can talk to today and reach. You can go around, and you have to market for your business. You can go around knocking doors, you can hang flyers, you can take cards on people's mailboxes, and you're never gonna reach 5,000 people in 10 minutes. So Facebook is a super powerful tool, and it's also free. Like, you don't have to have a marketing budget to start that. You don't have to pay for cards. You don't have to pay for flyers. It's 1,000% free to start in groups and on your personal page, and prioritize 10 to 30 minutes a day as your actual marketing budget, because it's the best one that you have.
Do you guys, and I want to dig more into Facebook and social media in a little bit, but real quick, do you guys use paid media a lot on Facebook, or is it all organic?
So most of my conversions are organic. Let me say that. I do put some money into Facebook. I'll probably spend about $1,500 a month on Facebook for RKG right now, which is not a ton when you consider our revenue. When you consider how little I spend on advertising and how much I've been able to scale and grow on that, it's actually a little bit mind-blowing. But I do both paid ads on the back end of Facebook. I've gotten pretty good at that, as well as I use boosted posts, and I set demographics so that my content on my business page is actually getting out to people that are not in my network yet. So a lot of people also say that boosted posts are a waste of money. I never looked at it like that, because what I'm doing is I'm paying to get my pictures and my copy in the news feeds of people that are definitely my target client, because I set my demographics accordingly. And, you know, people need to see you, let's say 5 to 12 times before they buy typically. So when I'm showing up, and the cool thing about Facebook ads is when you pay to be there, Facebook also owns like Words with Friends and all these different apps. And so now it's really cool because I'm creating this picture. I stick to the DFW market, so I'm not like trying to go global or national right now or anything, but I really hone into my market. And it's crazy because people will always be like, Kimba, I see y'all everywhere. Man, we got maybe 10 trucks. You know how many trucks are in DFW? Like, you don't see me you see me everywhere because you see me when you're playing Words with Friends. You see me when you're scrolling your timeline. And now you know my brand. So when you do see my trucks driving around, it just looks like they're everywhere because it's what your eye, you know, it's like you always see the kind of car you drive. You probably never noticed that. I've never noticed silver Jeeps until I own one. Now I got a lifted silver Jeep. I'm like, half the DFW's driving a lifted silver Jeep, but it's a mental thing. And so that's what branding is. And so now they see my guy at Home Depot on my t-shirt, and then they saw my truck around, and by the time I'm showing up on Words with Friends, they think that I'm like a genie in a bottle and I'm everywhere, and I'm not, but I'm showing up to the same people in the same market in different places very consistently.
Yeah, it sounds like consistency is like the biggest part of that. 10 minutes a day,
everything.
Telling the story.
Yes.
So what happened next? You looked Robbie in the eye. You said, hey, we're going all in. What happened next?
Well, it was a very stressful next year. We learned a lot of very difficult lessons on hiring subcontractors. We made a lot of bad hires. We ended up doing a lot of jobs twice. We kicked off a sales team, and our sales team was honestly the easiest and still is the best part of what I do, but it's just because the relationships came so natural to me. But I had a lot to learn when we started getting into insurance. So I guess it's like, we're booking these jobs for people I know and off relationships and word of mouth, and I'm posting on Facebook and we're gaining some traction. And then what we really realized is we're like, man, there's actually a lot of work there's a lot of money in insurance work. Like, that's actually where it is. But we didn't really know a lot about insurance. But, you probably can see by now that that's never held me back. I'll just learn it. Like, whatever, dude. I don't know insurance. Insurance is where the money is. You know what? Sounds like we need to learn insurance. So I did what a lot of people are scared to do, and I invested money, again, that I didn't really have to invest on the education that I knew that I needed. So I bought into a program that taught me a lot. It taught me enough about insurance to really start putting some skin in the game, to know how insurance companies operate, the legalities behind it all, the damage that they're looking for, the way claims are paid out, the way to maximize ways that claims are paid out. There's a lot to insurance. It's one of my favorite things, because I tell people, it's when I hire on a salesperson, I can't give them like a process to their job. I can't give them a workflow to their job. What I give them is a playbook. I'm like, hey man, here's the insurance playbook, because this is like a football game, right? Like when you get out on the field, you're going to have your plays, and you're just going to have to be a little bit intuitive about which way that you duck and weave, right? It's like, because depending on the carrier, depending on the adjuster, depending on the roof, depending on the homeowner, you have a whole new equation every single time that you show up to a job, every time. And so I had to learn that and how to get good at that. Once I did, I'm a really fast learner. I'm kind of a nerd, so I will spend hours hammering into education. I just love it so much. So I started doing what storytelling also does, right? So I started telling these really great stories about my company and the homeowners that we're helping. And, I just saved this person $25,000 because they didn't have to pay for a roof. Their insurance paid for it because of the knowledge I have. I made that happen for them. And I started to use my social media audience again, because now I want people to come sell roofs for me. It's just me and Robbie. We're as big as we're going to get as a two-man operation. It's time to bring on a team. And that's the first step in scaling, right? It's like, you're only going to ever be able to do as much as you can do as one or two humans, or however many you have. So to get bigger, we need a bigger team. So I started telling all these stories, and what these stories did were they inspired people to want to be part of my culture. They wanted to be a part of what Robbie and I had going on. And when I say that right there, Facebook and culture are the two things that have scaled me from literally trying to feed my kids and trying to come up with $200 to go to the grocery store, and being able to sit here with you today and be like, man, I'm the CEO of a company that's likely going to hit 8 figures this year. We did hit 7 last year, the top of the 7s last year. So it's like, I don't think that reaching 8 is going to be that hard. It almost blows my mind, because it lets me know that the potential out there is just huge. I think people just kind of miss the mark on the important things. And so one of the most important things is culture, because you can never take your vision. I don't care if you've created a new toothpaste or you own a roofing company. You cannot grow unless you can inspire people, tell a story that inspires people to buy into your vision. They have to buy into your vision. And when you have the kind of talent that can talk to people and inspire them to buy into your vision, wow, game over. Because now, instantly, overnight, it's not just me and Robbie selling roofs. I got 10 people willing to do it with me. You know what that does for your revenue? 10 times is it.
So I'm sure someone's listening right now and they're like, all right, that sounds great, but how do I get my vision across? How do I tell the right story? Maybe I'm not good at it. Maybe no one ever taught me. Like, when you say culture and storytelling and inspiring others, can you give an example? What does that look like for you, like these days?
So these days I do a lot, like you've probably seen my post about my 100K club dinner. At RKG, if you sell $100,000 in revenue a month, we go out and eat steak, and it's not, no offense, but it ain't Logan's. Like, we're going to Ruth Chris, we're going to Eddie V's. We make a big deal about it. it's a winning mindset. It's like, this is the winner's table. These are the people that made it to the winner's table. And I make a deal about that on Facebook. I just tell that story. I tell the story of what's really happening, what we're really doing. And I just let people into my wins and into my team's wins. And, you know, I brought on 5 new salespeople this week that are pumped and motivated to be part of what RKG has going on. And they told me in their interview that they never considered getting into roofing, except for they fell in love with the culture that I present on my social media. And they wanted to be a part of that, because I paint the story of, I don't care where you came from. I don't care what you know. I don't care what you don't know. If you can walk and talk professionally and you have a work ethic that you will dig in, like if I give you tools, if you're the kind of person that will pick those tools up and use them, I will help you make 6 figures a year your first year in this industry. And I'm confident that I can do that if I find the right people that will buy into my vision and will match my energy. I'll make them hit 6 figures a year. I actually have people at my company that make $20,000, $30,000 a month as salespeople. And what's really cool about it though is there's a little piece to my secret sauce that you can't teach, because I have a genuine love for seeing other people win. And I think that that's been a real core part of my success. And I can't teach anybody else that, but all I can do is say, if you really, really love, if you go out and you seek to genuinely help people, like I don't go out and try to find people to do their roofs. Like I want people that I know my knowledge can help. My knowledge can help them save $25,000 on their roof project. My knowledge can help somebody else change their life the same way that I did mine with the same information. So when I go, and it's funny, you know, because like I'll interview people, I always ask people in my interviews, like, if you don't mind me prying into your personal business a little bit, what's the most money you've ever made in your life? And they'll tell me $40,000, $50,000 a year. And I'm like, cool, I know my goal then. And at the end of this interview, I shake their hand and I make a commitment to them. And I say, if you'll match my energy, if you'll learn what I teach, and if you'll match my energy, I will make your success my personal responsibility. And we shake hands and we split. And that's what builds culture. You can't build culture if you're not a leader in your heart. And a leader cares about their team. A leader does not stand at the front, bark orders, make demands. And if that's how you're running your company, man, you don't deserve for it to grow. That's not what being a leader looks like. When you're willing to get behind your team and inspire and educate and push them to their goals, like if you will help people, if you will set clear targets with your team. I sit down with my team members and I go, hey, how much money have you ever made? And in a perfect world, how much money do you make? Like, not like I'm trying to go buy a Lamborghini, right? But like, you're paying your bills, you're happy, you're taking your family on vacation, you got Christmas money in the bank. Like, what number is that to you? And they'll tell me a number. Okay, that's our target. We'll break down exactly how we're going to get there. But I think that because they see me invest into their success, they reciprocate that back, and they love to be part of a culture. They love to be part of a culture that loves to see them personally win and then celebrates those wins with them, like our 100K club dinner. I have bonus plans in place, and people really like to strive to those incentives, but they also know that they're genuinely cared about in the organization that they invest, you know, their time and energy into. And that's what culture is. And if you'll build that from the right mindset, like a real true leader's mindset. And I have to stop there, because if you're not a leader in your heart and soul, and you don't love to see other people win, and that's not your motive for doing it, you have to adjust yourself first. You have to change first, because I tell business owners all the time, your company will never outgrow who you are as a human being. And if you're not a strong human being, and you're not a strong leader, and you're not genuinely there for your team, you don't deserve to have one. And I don't say that in an ugly way. It's just like, let's make sure that we're strong enough to carry the workload before we ask for it, because you do have other people's lives and goals and visions and families in your hands. And before you scale to having a big team like I now have, you have to be the kind of person that takes that as the most serious thing, because I wake up and do what I do every day for them. I just get successful because I make them win, and I just happen to be at the tip of the spear. So that's why I win, is because they all do.
Would you say that this focus on culture, and I'm going to just rephrase a little bit if I have it right, sounds like a lot of what culture is to you when you say it is really caring about your people, like genuinely waking up and trying to get them a little bit more successful. It's also telling that story and having standards that just keep going up, a winning sort of culture. I just use culture in the definition of culture, but you got it.
It works though, but yes, I mean, I'm glad that you said the word standards, because I didn't say that, and that does matter. Like, not everybody gets a place on this bus.
Right.
You know, I mean, there are standards required. I'm a very strong, direct person, and I build my boundaries very strong. But the people that are inside of that, I will pour any and everything into. And so they know what is required around here, and they know the standards, and they strive to live up to that, because they know that the rewards come with it.
So a lot of people obviously have a big challenge in finding good talent, not just sales folks, but technicians, people who are doing the production and so forth. Does this focus on culture and then being able to sort of tell that story, does it help you attract other types of talent as well? Or is there another game plan for you, another strategy for finding really good talent in other areas of the business?
I'm glad we talked about this. There's two that I use. I do want to say, at the end of the last quarter, I personally was not last year, I was not in a good place within myself. And one thing about me, Michael, I don't really have like work-life separation. I just have life. Sometimes I wonder if I only work or if I work at all. It just seems to be intermixed. And so what happens with that, whether it's positive or negative, is when I am doing really well, my company does really well. When I'm not, I do see that come out in the level of people that I attract, in the standards that my team produces and upholds to, and all these kinds of things. And so now I do take care of myself as number one priority, and not in a way that I'm trying to be ugly about it, but I make sure that Kimba is on her A game, because I'm the pace setter and the tone setter. So again, if you're not at a place where you're setting the tone for the people that you want to attract, it's just not going to happen for you, right? But a lot of it as well. So Facebook, obviously, I have people almost every time I post a 100K club dinner, somebody messages me talking about they want to join my team. And now it's a vetting process. So finding good talent, finding good people is so, so, so difficult. And it's so grueling. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I just met with another one today that's like not it. And you feel like you've wasted so many hours of your time, and you have. So I guess I'll say that I've learned the art of recruiting, and it's a whole new ballgame in itself. Sometimes I find people off Facebook because they were attracted to my culture. That's where most of my team came from, was they were attracted to my culture on Facebook. The other part of them, I actually use ZipRecruiter. So there's like Indeed and Monster, and without going into like all these experiences, because we only have so much time, like skip the bullshit, go to ZipRecruiter. If you're going to pay for an online platform that's not Facebook, just pay for ZipRecruiter. They seem to have the best candidate pool, if you will. But outside of that, what you have to understand is your copy can't suck. If you're not a copywriter by nature, and you're not a storyteller by nature, and you're like not an inspiring human being at all, then you might consider outsourcing this one. Because your ad, especially in construction, and especially if you are recruiting roof salesmen, you want to talk about the hardest thing you know how many companies are in DFW? You know how many pay plans out there exist? Do you know how many people offer trucks and gas cards and like, oh yeah, we'll just give you 70% of the profit as commission? I mean, it's mind blowing to me what some of these companies will give away the farm, because it's really just one guy sitting in his living room that's not going to actually offer any support. You're not going to have any training, and you're not going to have any cards, and you're not going to have any polo, all the things. And so he leads with like 70% commission, and people are like, I'm going to go there. So what I had to do was I had to start learning how to write copy that also inspired people to join my culture. So whether you're using Facebook or ZipRecruiter, the game is kind of the same. It's just when you're doing a sales ad, because on ZipRecruiter, it's not like organically posting things. It's a sales ad. But what I did in the copy that I found to be the most beneficial, and when I pumped money behind this one, I wasn't pissed because it worked and I got some people. But I started picking apart the pain points of salespeople, because I've been in the game long enough. I know the pain point of salespeople. So at the beginning of the ad, I'm just like, are you tired of waiting 3 months to get paid your commissions? Are you tired of a company that offers you no office support or training? Like, and then they're like, yeah, the reason, actually I am. And I've earned myself the next sentence. I've earned myself the next 20 seconds of their life or whatever. I do not get in there and go, well, this is our pay plan, and just all the people don't care about the thing. People don't care if their roof is damaged. People don't care if their insurance company is going to pay for it. People make decisions off of emotion, and that's just how we're hardwired. So even in your copy, you have to understand internally the audience that you're talking to. And what salespeople are looking for is a company that's going to pay them fast. They want to be part of a winning culture. They want to feel supported. They want to have training. They want to feel supported to be able to hit their targets. And at the end of the day, my culture is so attractive that my pay plan, I don't have to give away the farm. I don't have to give away 70% of my profit to my sales guy just to have them, because they appreciate the value that I bring to the table. And so I lead with that.
So 0 to close to maybe tracking towards 8 figures in 4 years, 4.5 years. Aside from culture, aside from, consistently showing up on Facebook, social media, and telling your story, what other sort of key decisions now looking back are you like, all right, I'm really glad I did those things. That's what allowed me to get here from there?
Paying attention to quality, because at the end of the day, your brand will not survive. It doesn't matter. I can get on here and I can paint all the promises in the world, but what makes Robby and our partnership so strong is that he backs up the quality that I promise. And that's everything, because that's how you gain traction for the long game. So down to the kind of roofing systems that we build out, like we ensure that decking's up to code when we tear off a roof. We go back on with synthetic underlayment. Like, I'm not putting on felt paper. I'm not doing overlays. I'm not turning a 3-tab around backwards to build out this roof. Like, I'm using starter shingle. We're using hip and ridge. I'm delivering the product that my salesperson promised. I mean, ideally every single time. And I'm not saying that we're perfect, but we're like super accountable. So if something does happen or something does go wrong, we also have the reputation that we're going to be there to solve that problem with the homeowner. And word of mouth, it travels very quickly. Down to the finish outs on our renovations. I'm very proud of them, because when you go around and you see where the base is cut into the wall, it's not messy. I mean, there were some new houses just built up the street, and I can tell a builder just hired whoever he could probably find the cheapest to get in there and do it, because I can see from the street the over just where it's like y'all didn't use any blue tape to there's multicolors on the house, and it's messy. So people don't have to know construction to appreciate a really solid finish out. You don't even have to really know what you're looking for. You can walk in a home and go, this home is crisp. This finish out work is nice. Like the caulking is straight. The lines are straight. The tile is straight. Everything's really beautiful in these houses. And so it's back to kind of that standard. I'm really, really, really glad that I was picky about the crews that I hired. I now have in-house crews. I'm super proud that they're Team RKG. They love to be on my team. I appreciate having them. But there was the battle of going through some bad guys to find these guys. And once I found these guys, I love and appreciate them as much as I can, as often as I can. I've never seen another roofing company take their roofing crews to dinner, but I just took all 3 of my roofing crews out to Joe T. Garcia's to just say thank you. Like, you guys are out here working in the 115-degree weather, like to uphold the promises that I keep in my marketing, and like, thank you so much, because it's that attention to detail that gets us the next job and the next job and the next job. I'm also very particular about manufacturers that I use. And when I start running into an issue with a manufacturer, specifically a shingle line, I've recently been dealing with that. I'm not afraid. Everybody knows, but I'm not afraid to make a change. I will pivot away from that. So from the labor, the quality in the labor, to the quality of the products that we use, we do not aim to be the cheapest. We just aim to be the best, and we aim to have the best quality. And that's the kind of customers that I look for. So I choose my team wisely, and I choose my customer wisely. And I'm really thankful. I think that's had a lot to do with it as well.
So obviously it has not been a straight, line up for you since the beginning. I'm sure it's been super jagged. Like just real talk. Can you talk about one or two examples when shit really hit the fan and you don't know if the business was going to make it? Like, what happened?
I mean, actually, in the last quarter, this is the most recent one. So there was, at the end of the last quarter, just to put it into perspective, I had 5 full complete renovations going on at a time, like full gut houses, 3 to 4,000 square feet a house. I had all in-house crews on it. I had one guy that was my project manager, my renovations manager of that whole side. And then of course, every crew had their lead. But these people were not, this particular one person that was over the rest of the people was not bought into our vision. He was not bought into anything that I stand for. We're just not the same. And I really had a problem with him for a while, but where I was able to kind of help Robby understand what was coming. In less than 3 months, we lost $70,000 on our renovation side. And I kept saying that it was leadership, because instead of making a material list at the beginning of the week and going to Home Depot, I got a guy going to Home Depot 3 or 4 times a day. Well, I got 4 of these crews going on out there. I got these guys making $20, $25 an hour, and Home Depot's 30 minutes away, and they circle around in Home Depot because they don't care, because they're getting paid hourly. So it's like, oh, I'm at Home Depot. Billy sent me to Home Depot again, and now they're just wandering around Home Depot. And so, just think about that. You got 20, 40, $60 before they get back. And you got one of them that does that every single day. You got people that will throw away a box that has a whole ceiling fan in it. I'll pay $500 for a ceiling fan or whatever it is, and then trash. So I have materials going in the dumpster. I have labor, man hours being wasted. And it really came down to, I wasn't tracking expenses per job correctly, and it made it very difficult for me to find the hole. I knew that I was losing money. I knew that it had a lot to do with the leadership that I had in place, but I struggled to fire him because I couldn't prove it. So what I did at the beginning of the year, I really hammered out a very intricate P&L report. Before my company loses $5, I can see it coming. I know, and it's hard to understand that if you still have a small operation, but if you can consider for a second having 4 crews going on the renovation side, 3 crews going on the roofing side, 20 salespeople out there selling, this is a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot of money. You got money going out for sales, cards, shirts, hats, all those kinds of things. You got money going out for gas, vehicle expenses. You have all these different things going on. And so money just starts leaking. It just starts leaking out of places, and you can't really see it coming. So I went in, I built out a P&L report that allowed me to be able to place blame where blame was due for money leaking out. And a lot of people got fired in March. A lot of people got fired in March. What happened there, my company now is profitable. It is it is profitable per job. It is profitable net. And, I think this is where a lot of contractors struggle as well, because we're not bookkeepers. Like, Robby's a production guy. I'm more into marketing and relationships and the storytelling and the copywriting, and I'm a creative by nature. Neither one of us like numbers. The only thing we like to do with money is spend it. At the end of we like to make money. We like to spend money. We're not trying to pay attention to all the details in between. Like, that got to be our accountant's problem, because that's not our jam. So I had to learn something else. I had to learn bookkeeping. I had to learn accounting, and I had to prioritize the fact that if I did not get in front of this, that it didn't matter. It doesn't matter if you hit 6 figures. It doesn't matter if you hit 8 figures. It doesn't matter if you hit 10 figures, man. It doesn't matter how much money you make if you spend more in the process. So I kind of backed up, and that's why we will probably hit 8 figures this year. Before this, I confidently knew I could. I backed up a little bit at that point. And I went, man, you know what? I don't care if I get to say next year, like, hey, we scaled to $15 million. I don't care. If my profit margin is not 30 to 40% on that $10 million, $15 million, whatever I'm trying to hit, I don't even want it. I want to have a 30 to 40% profit margin on a $7 million revenue before I make another move. Because if I cannot be a good steward of this cash flow, I don't need any more, period. I haven't earned the right to scale. We have to figure this out. And now I'm just telling you, my Excel sheets, I got tracking sheets, I got P&L report, I got all the things, but I can see my company from a God's eye view at all times. And I can make decisions and I can plug holes way before. I'm actually embarrassed. I'm actually humiliated to have to tell you that on this podcast. I'm glad we're all friends here, because I'm actually humiliated that I lost $70,000 in 3 months, because I could have prevented it and I could have saw it coming, but I didn't have the right systems and processes in place to do so.
But that's the thing, you know, you had that painful mistake now. So in the future, you're not going to lose $700,000, you know? So.
That's right. And I tell myself that all the time. I'm like, you know what, girl, you had to learn. And so I always say all the time, if you follow me on Facebook at all, you'll see me say it. Like, I only win or I learn. I never lose. I win and I learn. And that's it. That was a $70,000 lesson that, you're right, probably saved me millions. What it did is it saved my company. It saved my legacy that I'm building, and it saved my cash flow that supports my family. Because if we would have kept going like that for another 3 months, RKG wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have been able to sustain it.
Wow. So in moments like that, I mean, I'm sure those were some tough nights, weeks, you know, maybe months. And you said earlier that your business is only going to grow. Basically, you're the bottle cap for your business. If you're not at your peak, your business won't be either. So when you're having, you know, rough weeks, rough periods, and you're down, maybe down on yourself and everything's chaos, what do you do to get relief and sort of balance things out so you can pull the reins on the whole business and gain control again?
A lot of self-talk. Recently, though, even at the beginning of the year, and I mean, I kind of am this little hippie chick, so this is what it is, but I mean, I meditate every day. I try to start off my morning with a meditation, and I think that can be anything for people. I think that we don't prioritize our self-care because we don't understand that you can't give what you don't have. Like, the apple has to have apples on the tree for other people to be able to come get the apples. And I know how big of a role that I play in my company now. And so I know that it's my responsibility to be the best me every day. I do not take that lightly. But I really make sure that I give myself a good morning pep talk. It's part of my routine. I don't, you know, my hashtag I use all the time is wake up to win. And it's because that's what I do. I set my tone in the morning so that I can win for the rest of the day. That starts off for me. That starts off by making my bed. When I get up in the morning and I don't want to make my bed, I make my bed look pretty. And I literally go, there you go, Kimba. That was the first one of the day. And then I take 10 minutes to go out on my balcony and I do my oils but what happens in that moment, my husband still thinks I'm crazy, but I'm like, look, what's happening in that moment is that I'm checking in to my center and into my inner power, because it's there and it exists in all of us. And I think it's important that we tap into that and to remind yourself in the morning that what you don't know, you can learn. You are capable. You are capable. And in fact, you're the most capable person to scale your company, because nobody knows your vision or any of that stuff other than you. And so we can always level up, and I've made it a priority to do that. And I protect my peace first. I love my husband and my children and my team. I would take a bullet for any of these people, but more important than them is still me. And I build very strong boundaries around my own peace, my own sanity. I take time when I need it. I talk myself up. I remind myself that I'm strong and that I'm capable every single day. And again, that does not come from a place of vanity. It comes from a place because I really genuinely do understand that I am leading not only my company, my culture, my organization. Like, you know, people at my company say that I am the heartbeat of RKG, and it's not a light load to carry. So I have to make sure that I'm strong every single day. And for me, it kicks off with that, you know, structured morning routine and making the bed, meditating, working out, you know, having some coffee, having some water, getting myself together, and then jumping into the office. So I'm actually awake for about 4 to 5 hours before I even make it to my office.
Love it. What time do you wake up in the morning on average?
Like 5:30.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. If you were to take yourself back in time, right? You and Robbie are maybe 6 to 12 months in, things are a struggle. You know, you can't even see the future. If you were to go back in time and have sort of FaceTime with yourself back there, what would you tell yourself? Like, Kimba, you need to focus on X, Y, and Z, and don't make that mistake. What do you wish you would have known then?
It would have been cash flow. I would have really started because everything else honestly comes natural enough to me. Marketing, networking, copywriting, the inspiring things, all that comes so natural to me. And I avoided what I didn't like. And I don't like numbers. I don't like numbers, and I don't like patterns. I don't like any of that stuff. It's just not my jam. So I, in fact, like it when, more artsy. The less patterns, the better. Just the more chaotic it is, the better. And so that did not come natural to me. And because of that, I literally turned away from it until it was sink or swim. And I can only imagine all the countless money that I lost because of that. I couldn't tell you how much I lost because of that because I wasn't tracking it. So who knows? It's out. I don't know. And so that would have been the biggest thing, is that I would have prioritized keeping a really good tracker of my cash flow, my expenses, a lot better than I did when I was smaller, because it would have been easier. With less transactions, there's less to get into the habit. I mean, I had $7 million a year run through my hands before I started deciding, like, oh, probably need a little bit more of a formal P&L report than like what's living in mine and Robbie's minds right now, or like trying to scroll through the bank account. And plus it was a disaster for the CPA at the end of the year. So it would definitely be cash flow priority, and ensuring that you're always within margin. Not every customer is your customer. Not every job's your job. And the beautiful thing about cash flow reports, I used to hate them. Now I love them, because I can also see what jobs are profitable for me. And that allows me to know where to focus on my marketing. Like, there are some jobs that you will lose on. There are some types of jobs that your crews suck at, or you suck at, or whatever the case is. And until you really have a good P&L, we can, as contractors, we project our profit margins. So we'll bid something with an expectation of a certain profit margin on the other side of that. And I think what I failed to do was ensure that actually came to fruition. It was just like, oh, we made XYZ on this. But at the end of the day, did we? No, because somebody walked around Home Depot for 2 hours and somebody threw away a fan we bought twice and whatever. So it is important to actually see how that transpires and be able to calculate an exact profit margin at the end of it. Because like right now, I can look through my tracker and go, oh, right here I made 70% profit. Right here I was at 21. Right here I was at 19. And over the course of even 1 quarter, 3 months of your life, you will start to see where you lose money, where you make money, what you should be marketing. I mean, it paints a whole picture that just empowers you as the CEO of your company to be able to make really great decisions moving forward.
Yeah, it's true. All the contractors in our network and Enhancify's network, once they reach a certain age, they just become sharks with the numbers. I mean, they're just operators. They really focus on that. So let me ask you this. Let's say you had an extra $100K to invest in your business right now. Where would you direct that money?
I would probably, I don't know if I would open another market. If I had another 100K, right now, I would probably put it into real estate. I'm not even sure. My business is such a cash flow business right now. I've designed everything to be very cash flow dependent on itself. We cash flow per job. I don't spend a ton of money on marketing. I'm not sure I would. I'm not sure I could say, oh, I would get a commercial, or I would do this, or I would do that, because I really believe in Facebook. I feel like 74% of people are on Facebook every single day, and those 74% of people check their Facebook 8 to 12 times a day. Nobody watches TV that much. It's one of those things where I really like the way that I'm doing things. I'm not sure that money would solve any of my problems. I think it's just continuing at this point, that consistency of doing what I'm doing. So I think if I had 100K to throw at something, it would be real estate. That's what it would be. It wouldn't even be RKG.
And on the flip side of that, I know that you guys really give back to the community a lot. So I'm curious, how do you make those decisions on, hey, who do I give a free roof to? Because I'm sure there's, so many people you can help, but you were just saying you have to also look at the numbers. So how do you make that decision in your business?
I've actually only done a handful of roofs for free. Most of the charity work that I do comes in a little bit different form to where it doesn't heavily affect my P&L report. I have done it a couple times. And I have also implemented it in a process just in case anybody does, you know, maybe they want to give away a free roof here or there. How do we make that decision? You will get messages on Facebook or phone calls to your office with the sad story of the week, you know. And if you're a compassionate human being like me, it's going to pull at your little heartstrings, and you're going to be, you know, you're going to want to help. And especially, I'll tell you the one that was just the worst for me wasn't even somebody wanted a free roof. They came to me and told me that their child needed this surgery. I feel silly. I'm going to laugh about it. I'm so embarrassed. I'm telling this story. Like, I'm turning red. They came and told me that their child needed a life-saving surgery. And then basically, if they didn't shit out the $4,500 required to get this surgery, that the baby wasn't going to make it.
Wow.
And I mean, there was tears involved. I stayed on the phone with this person for 2 hours, just crying together. And I did no research into this situation because I'm a mom, and he knew exactly where to stab me. Now, I've never seen a professional con artist like this person in my 31 years of life. And so I didn't even vet any of the story. I just got wrapped up in my emotions, and I made a phone call to my office, and I said, hey, so-and-so is going to come by and grab a check for $4,500. You have permission to cut the check. And that's all I said. I was an emotional basket case. I thought the baby was, I literally went to my husband and I said, Robbie, if we have the resources to get this baby the surgery and we don't do it, what kind of people would we even be? This is a baby, for God. I'm like, anyway, my office wrote the check out, which if this would have hit me, I would have caught it right here, but they didn't. Okay. So it is what it is. The person in my office at the time wrote a check out to a Dr. Angela. It was like somebody's first and last. It wasn't a practice. It wasn't a surgery center. It was a name of a person that had doctor in front of it. Thank you, Wells Fargo Business. Highly recommend them, by the way. Highly recommend Wells Fargo for your business account. But fraud detection on point, man. If it doesn't look like my signature, they're calling. If it seems weird, they're calling. So Wells Fargo calls me and they're like, hey, Kimba, did you approve this check for $4,500 to Dr. So-and-so? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And they said, okay, well, it's not written out to a practice. It's written out to them personally. And she's in the branch right now to cash the check. And I'm like, a doctor doesn't cash a check in cash, right? Like, and they're like, and she's like 20 something years old. And I'm like, and she seems very nervous. I'm like, okay, hold the bus. Anyway, long story short, man, this guy doesn't even have a baby. It's like him and his drug head girlfriend, and they're just trying to cash my check in the girlfriend's name and whatever. So time and time again, I have people, because I think people do watch me on Facebook and kind of see that I have a squishy part to me. And so I had to create a process that protected my squishy heart. And so I no longer just accept calls, but the first thing that I do is I require them to send me an email stating why the home is not insured. Because why am I paying for a roof and your insurance company isn't, if that's the route we're going? And then two, I need some kind of details. Like, I mean, I need a kid, like, I should have got a kid's name. I don't know, a mom's name, I don't know anything, some medical records, a doctor's referral, something. So it's what's really crazy to me, Michael, since I've started doing this, like when they call the office, I'll say, okay, here's my email. And I don't even make it sound like it's me. Here's the email that you need to send your request into. And then we will look through it and make a decision on how our charity dollars are going to be spent at that time. So we'll be back with you. Do you know that this month alone, I've asked 3 people who have called me for those emails, and I have not received 1 email from all 3 of these people. And here's my thing. If you don't have 10 minutes, I don't have 10 grand. Straight up. So, so that gets rid of the liars pretty quick, because they just don't want to attach their name to something written. And they're also looking for the quick steal. So they don't really want to take the time to sit down and put it into an email. But a lot of what I do is mostly I give back to organizations. Like I have one particular nonprofit organization that deals with women that are victims of domestic violence. I'm a domestic violence survivor myself in my younger days. And so I know her, I know what she does for these women. And I know because I've been that low and that beat down, and I now consider myself to like wear my crown proud. I know the potential that these women have if they get the right resources given to them. And so I try to stick with things like that, like her, to where I know that it's going to be used for things that are important to me. And then I obviously, I also know my budgets. I've talked to my CPA and I've asked him, I've at least got myself educated on how much of this I can write off. There's different kind of gifts that have different tax deductions with that. And at the revenue bracket that I'm at, I need some tax deductions sometimes. And so I've gotten more clear on, how much I should give and where I should give. And outside of really, painting what that looks like for me, I just encourage everybody to reach out to your CPA, see where your tax liability stands. And if you're the kind of person like me that would rather put that same level of resources, and because like this money can't stay in my hands, it's going to go to IRS or it's going to go to where I want it to go. And so, I like to choose where I delegate the money to myself if I can. And so I just recommend talking to your CPA and seeing what that looks like, and then giving to an established organization that you already know and trust, or at minimum having them right into the office, given something that you can bet the credibility of the equation. Because if you give a free roof to somebody just because they called, it's like, why did they not have insurance on the home? And maybe they do have insurance and they just don't even know how to use it. So that's where my knowledge can kick in there too. So that's how I do it.
Bottom line, if anyone tries to screw with Kimba again, we're all coming after you, so don't even try it.
All 5,000 of my friends are going to fight you.
Exactly. What's next for you guys?
What's next for me is, I'm opening a Prosper office. And what I've come to learn, though, is I love business. I love entrepreneurs. I have a real passion for the people that are in the trenches. And that's why I was so happy when he asked me to do this. And why I even asked if I could record it for my YouTube as well. Because I'm going to continue to scale RKG, but truthfully, I don't want to go outside of Texas. My reasons for beginning this company still remain the same. I still want to be home with my kids. I don't want to be flying all over the country doing roof things. That's just not my personal goal. There's plenty of money to be made in insurance restoration in DFW. So we've already opened Prosper. And honestly, I think that after I open Office 1 or Office 2, I'm sorry, that I know that Office 3, 4, and 5 won't be that big of a deal. And I already have those markets pinned out all in Texas. So I'm not ever going that far. So that's what's next for RKG, is just continuing to open a couple more markets and finding people within those markets that want to jump into our culture and use the training that we have to change their life for their family and be able to service homeowners in those communities with quality contractors as well. Especially one of the markets that's on my radar, they just don't have anybody. Like, their contractor selection is pretty scarce out there. So I can only imagine what's happening to their homes and their communities because of that. So we're going to keep doing that. I mentioned earlier, I run a group called Inking Wins. That's a Facebook mastermind group. And I also run a group on Facebook called the Networking Lounge. That's a free group for entrepreneurs. I have a little over 1,000 other business owners in there from all different industries. So what I'm doing, I haven't even launched this yet, but I'm actually building a website. It's going to be www.ceo-af.com. And I've already bought the domain and started building it out with my developer. But what I'm doing right now is I'm actually building a website that's going to bring together resources for entrepreneurs, not just contractors, but entrepreneurs that want to go from exactly what we're talking about, from feeling like you're owning your job to being the CEO of your company. And I'm going to be doing a lot of blog writing and offering some different services in there that I know are, and also bringing together some of my resources that I've used. Like the bookkeeping service that I use is amazing. It's called Bench for anybody out there. I don't even need to use my affiliate code for it. It's called Bench. It's awesome. Strongly recommend them, but bringing together some different things like credit cards that will help you build your business credit, writing blogs on things like delegating, how to know when to delegate, what are you going to get off your plate, what needs to be somebody else's problem, what do you need to focus on, mindset, self-love, like everything that I've talked about in this podcast that's brought together what has equated to my success. I'm going to be harboring all this in my website and offering some different services around there. that's industry wide, because what I've learned is Robby loves construction, and Robby loves building roofs, and Robby loves taking ugly spaces and making them beautiful again. And I love that for him, and I love the business side of it. So that's what's fun. I actually had somebody say to me yesterday, they're like, Kimba, like, you do business, roofing is just the byproduct of what you do. And that's true. So now that I'm at a place, you know, when you start working, because there's no life work separation, there's no balance here, but this is just life. And do I work all the time, or do I never work? Who knows? But at the end of the day, I'm not at a place where I have to watch the gas pump when I fill up my car anymore. And I don't have to worry about how I'm going to keep the lights on. And when I wanted to take my kids to New York and drop 10 grand to go to New York for Christmas, that's what we did. So I'm not at a place in my life right now where I have to necessarily work for money. I go out, I help people, I'm inspiring people, and money is naturally the byproduct that's coming with that. And so I'm really excited for my next personal stage, because it's really a passion project that I have turned into a profitable company as well. But it's mostly a passion project that I'm going to be taking on, and it's to help all entrepreneurs be able to go from, you know, I got to just tell y'all real quick, you can probably tell in my accent, but I grew up in a tiny little town outside of Fort Worth. I was this freckle-faced kid that there was nothing special about me growing up. I got pregnant when I was 17. I had my first child at 18. His father was never in the picture. I was literally a teenage single mom, just having to figure it all out on my own. And I know that with every single thing in me, that with the right mindset and the right resources, there's nobody out there that could not change their life the way that I have. And I just want to be able to bring my platform and my website to people and be able to show them the resource. You know, this is the equation right here. And if you can just take this equation and do what everybody's scared to do, jump, do it, make that decision. Don't wait for the right time. The right time's never going to be here. Implement this today and be really consistent with it, and you will change your life. So that's what's next for RKG. That's what's next for me personally. And I'm just stoked about all of it, because I feel like, man, we know what we're doing now. Like, the sky's the limit, you know?
Amazing. And I think that's a beautiful note to sort of wrap this up on and end on. I think people listening, I hope there's going to be many people listening. I think this is a really good first experiment. And I'm so glad that, you know, you popped into my brain when I think about Contractors Who Win. I hope everyone listening, you know, you got a lot of golden nuggets from this. I know I did for sure. So thank you so much for your time. And once again, if people want to, you know, follow your journey, hear some of your stories, maybe look at some of your posts for inspiration, or follow your next, you know, venture, where can they find you?
My personal page is really the best place to follow me. That's the platform that I use the most. So it's just Kimba Garcia. I am maxed out on friends right now, I think, but you can always hit the follow button. So, you know, I think I have some people that follow me that aren't on my friends list now, and you'll still be able to see all my content, interact with me, feel free to send me a message or comment on one of my posts. I always reply back to comments, and so I'm pretty available. Also, if you search Facebook, the Networking Lounge, you can also find me in there. I'm consistently showing up in my networking lounge, and I genuinely love entrepreneurs. So go in there, introduce yourself, what you're doing. Pretty soon I will have, if you can find me there on Instagram, Kimba__ Garcia. But if you find me there, then as soon as I get this website launched, you know, I'm definitely going to be promoting it, and it'll be live. I have the domain and the website over here, but they're not linked yet, because I'm still working on some things. So as soon as that's launched, you know, I'll be promoting it on my personal Facebook page and in the networking lounge. So find me there, and I look forward to meeting. I really do love relationships. I love meeting new people. So I would love it if people would reach out to me, follow me, interact with me. I really would appreciate that, because I love new relationships and new connections. We can all gain. It's not just me pouring value out onto other people, but they probably have a lot of things that they can give me as well in experience. And, you know, we can really all grow stronger together. And that's the important part of the networking lounge and my Facebook relationship. So Kimba Garcia, look me up, follow me. I look forward to it.
Amazing. Kimba, thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to watch your journey.
Thank you so much. See y'all later.